At the House, there has been major movement on the Hyde Amendment, which a lot of you have heard. You may have heard about during the election cycle because it was something famously that President Biden supported for decades. And then as of last year, when it became election time, things started changing. And of course, the Hyde Amendment, if you don't know, to give people sort of a big picture understanding, what it does is it eliminates taxpayer funding going to abortion services, which I know, look, this is a topic we have to discuss and we have to be sensitive to it. It's not something to just jump in on and say, this is ridiculous, but look, it's your money as a taxpayer. And what's happening is for the first time since 1976, there will be potential. It looks like the House is moving. I mean, Thann, you can probably speak to it. The House is moving to try to strip away the Hyde Amendment.
Yeah, for the first time since 1976, as you mentioned, Logan. And, I would start by saying this. This is an issue that pro-life, pro-choice, Republican, Democrat, and independent American voters, they pretty much agree on this, Logan. An overwhelming majority, even on the pro-choice side, if they don't think that their taxpayer dollars should be used to fund abortions in the United States of America. But you're right. President Biden flip-flopped on the campaign trail after decades of being in favor of the Hyde Amendment, which prohibits that direct funding. He flip-flopped. And last week in the House of Representatives, Logan, the House Appropriations Committee essentially followed his cue. They have moved out an appropriation bill that would strip that protection from the bill. It's still got to go to the floor of the House of Representatives, still got to go to the floor of the United States Senate. And at least some, including Congressman Tom Cole, says that he doesn't think it can pass the United States Senate. But here's what I think people have to understand, Logan. We've gotten to a place where we've gotten so radical in Washington, D.C. on the abortion issue that even a consensus issue like this one with the American people, not good enough for the pro-choice, pro-abortion crowd in Washington, D.C. They are moving to repeal that protection.
The Hyde Amendment is an amendment that gets attached to spending bills. So it's not a constitutional amendment. It's an amendment within spending bills. And that's why it has to be re-upped every year. Now, there's a group in the House right now, a group of Republicans that are trying to get H.R. 18 passed, which would make it a law so it doesn't have to be an amendment every year. It doesn't have to get tacked on to spending bills. But as of right now, this amendment is something that gets it's a language that they put into a spending bill each year, and Congress has to pass it. And once that passes, it covers it for the next year. So for 45 years, this language has been placed into spending bills and continues forward. What would happen if they get rid of that amendment is that these spending bills would go forward, which allocate money all over the place to Title X programs, to people like Planned Parenthood and other groups like that, without the protection that the dollars that are being given to these groups cannot be used for abortion services.
When there are moments where your money is going to something you very much opposed, and maybe you believe is more extreme than some other, pieces of legislation. This is where the ACLJ steps in.
A petition is very simple. It says, stop Biden and the left from forcing us to pay for abortions. And it has this line in it that President Biden, Planned Parenthood, and the radical pro-abortion left are trying to eviscerate the pro-life Hyde Amendment that has barred your taxpayer dollars from directly funding abortions for the last 45 years. We have 136,000 signatures, over 136,000 signatures on this petition now. It's part of what Thann does every day in Washington, D.C., is use these petitions to go to members of Congress, show where the people are on these issues. And so it's a really important thing for you to sign because it helps our work on the Hill.
We've seen moves in the legislative debate happen quickly before. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these 136,000 names plus any who join going forward. We're going to break them down by state. And then we're going to make sure that the United States Senate, every single office, Logan, who will have a vote on this when the appropriations bill moves to that side of the United States Capitol, we're going to let them know how many voters in their state want to maintain the Hyde Amendment provision. And I would just say one of the things we'll stress with them, Logan, these will not be all pro-life Americans. Certainly that voice is very, very important. But even on the pro-abortion side, many people think that forcing taxpayer dollars to fund abortions directly is a step too far. And quite frankly, when we can find consensus in this country, they're fewer and farther between. But when we can find them, Logan, we should take them, and we should let the American people's voice be the one that carries.